Hello again. From these quarantine times, I have my quarantine haircut here. You see those grays are starting to come in real nicely. That's just stress. That's just stress. I wear it really well. Good day to you again. Here we are, thinking about things, pondering about things, and trying to make sense of all the things that are going on in the world right now, right? Uh, the studio, as it were, looks a little different. We're in the process of rearranging some stuff, right? So, um, pardon our progress. But yeah. So there's something that I want to talk about, and it's probably going to make me the bad guy, and it's probably a very controversial thing to talk about. I know it's probably not the most popular opinion, but I'm gonna say it anyway because it needs to be said. Um, Let me start first by giving you a definition, a key word which will have an effect on the rest of what I'm about to say, the cornerstone, if you will, of what we're about to talk about. Fatalism is basically, in general philosophy, the idea that everything's basically predetermined. There's really no such thing as, you know, giving a damn don't mean a thing. Everything's predetermined. Everything's destined. It's written down already somewhere in the tomes, and it really doesn't matter what we do, how we feel about it, or anything. And generally speaking, it carries a negative connotation. Most people have the idea where it's like, well, whatever. The worst thing's going to happen no matter what I do. So, that's fatalism in a nutshell. So again, take that back pocket. Okay, there was once a period of time where being a news reporter, where being a journalist, where being a a media person was a great responsibility and a great honor, and meant that you were somebody. Because at one point in time, when media people used to report on things and used to talk about things and used to actually do true journalism, that is going out and getting just the facts, ma'am, just the facts, and putting them to print, putting them to TV, radio, whatever. It was it was something. It meant that you were going out and extrapolating a vein of truth from the world that was and putting it into the common man's ears so that they could know what was going on in the world. It's not like that anymore. It's just not. Now, let me preface everything I'm about to say with something that needs to be said, and it really has to be said. Nothing that I'm about to say, and very little of what I ever say, is coming from a place of political bias. I'm not in anybody's pocket, clearly. There's I have nothing, like, there's no ulterior motive for me saying any of the things I'm about to say, because I know it's going to sound real Alex Jonesy for me to sit here and say some of the stuff I'm going to say, or insert conspiracy theorist here, but we'll get to that too in a little bit. Being a media person now does not carry quite the same weight that it maybe carried once upon a time, because a lot of your quote unquote journalists really reach for that low hanging fruit, right? Um, Case in point, everybody right now is hearing so much about COVID. Okay, everybody is hearing so much about COVID, and there's so much that we don't know because it's so new, and there's so much that it's just like anytime that there's any new information being put out, whether it's good, bad, indifferent, whatever, somebody just takes that and immediately throws it out into the world. And there's never any, it doesn't seem like anyway, that there's a whole lot of tracing sources, double checking, fact checking, um, anything like that. Any of the things that people would normally do, any of the proofing to actually take something and say, yes, I have something here. Scientific hypothesis testing, right? You have something that says, hey, this is what seems to be, but let's do some tests and let's see if this is what it actually is. Let's get other people to verify that this is what actually is. And I don't feel like we really do that a lot anymore. And the thing is, now we have all these news sources out there that, are they even really news anymore? Are they even really trying to give you actual news? Or are they just playing on that fatalism that I mentioned earlier? Because I think a lot of people genuinely have a fatalistic attitude about a lot of things for whatever reason. And there, you could go. I mean, it would be an interesting study to see why people do this. And I'm sure people have done it, but for whatever reason, a lot of people, they just would assume that everything's terrible and everything's going to be as bad as it possibly can be. And a lot of people do take the philosophy of, well, if I don't expect anything, I'll never be disappointed. And yes, okay, yes, technically you're true. But the thing is, human beings and the human spirit is based on hope and based on trying to when you wake up in the mornings, you don't wake up in the mornings like necessarily thinking something bad's going to happen. You don't wake up. When you wake up, you want good things to happen to you, right? You want to have a good day. Maybe you get a promotion. Maybe you make a new friend. Maybe you find a new type of music you like. There's all kinds of things that you could do in a day that are good. You don't wake up thinking, gee, I really hope today's a bad day. But they say that worry is hoping for the things that you don't want. And if you walk around with a fatalistic attitude all the time and say, well, gee, it's just everything's going to be terrible and bad, well, then chances are there's going to be a lot of stuff that's bad because you're looking through that lens constantly, right? And two, eventually that kind of erodes your spirit. That, like I said, human spirit, human willpower is based on hope, based on the idea that something good will happen to me later, that I will have a good day, or that I have a dream or an aspiration that I'm trying to reach for. And if we're just sort of walking around saying, it doesn't really matter, none of this matters, then, why do we even get up in the morning? Why do we even do anything? And I think that that's a lot of the issue that we have now is people have that mentality, and the media at large know that. And see, here's the thing, guys, okay? Again, I know I sound like one of those, the damn media, but any idiot with a microphone and a webcam, right, can make a video and sound like an educated person. Any stupid freaking idiot can sound smart if they are well spoken enough and have at least decent production quality, okay? It's not that hard. And the thing is, especially now with the way that you have digital media, and there's not the gatekeeping that there used to be where you have to get your story through whatever editorial or what have you. Like, you don't have to do that anymore. You can start your own blog, or you can start whatever silly looking website of questionable repute that you want to, and make it look like a legitimate website with legitimate news. You don't have to try anymore. And I don't think that people do. And that's part of the reason why you have so many conspiracy theorists. On the other side of that, you've got people who are telling you bad news, terrible news that the human brain can't wrap itself around because it's so jacked up. But then on the other side, you've got people who kind of almost as like an automatic defense against that, like a triggered defense, say, oh, well, there's no way that something bad like that can happen. It must be aliens, or it must be the fill in the blank here. Whatever you have a vendetta against that you hate, right? And that's kind of the issue that we see with a lot of things, right? And I feel like a lot of the people in the media, they prey on sort of people's tendency for fatalism, for the idea that it's always going to be a worst case scenario, that it's not going to get better anytime soon, that everybody is just going to be, in the case of COVID, stuck in their homes for the next 2 years or whatever. And it's almost like, why do you feel that way? Why do you feel like it's almost like you want to be stuck inside for 2 years? Not saying that you do, but it comes across that way. When people start saying, well, how about we maybe start going back outside? And there's sort of this immediate, well, it's not time. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I'm not trying to say that it's time to throw the doors open on everything and let's all just charge outside without clothes on and start licking all the metal objects out there in the world trying to get a disease. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying whenever the time does come for us to start going back out into the world, to not be afraid, okay? Because here's the other thing, and part of the reason why I'm making this video is because I actually saw a Game Theory, if you follow that channel, Matt Pat had a pretty nice video actually, where he was talking about how basically the crux of it was that people like to feel like they're in control. He has a crippling fear of flying on an airplane. So much so that he'll go through, and that was part of the video, was he'll go through websites and check like the model of the plane and see what like the failure rate for mechanicals on that plane was, go through and check like turbulence and check weather and all this stuff dozens of times before he gets on a flight, even though that doesn't change anything about the actual flight. It just makes him feel good knowing that he's got some control over something, but ultimately there is no control. When it comes time to do the thing that we're afraid to do, we just have to do it. And the idea is that you don't let fear run your life. Now, again, I am not saying that it's time to just, again, let me be very, very clear. I'm not saying that it's time to just run out into the streets and just say, "Who pig, let's go," and get out there and just start acting a fool. I'm not saying that yet. Is it time to maybe start soft opening some things? Possibly. But the idea is that we need to be working toward progress. And when people say get back to normal, a lot of people are real quick to say, oh, well, what's going to be normal again? What's going to be our new normal? Why can't it be the way that it was back in February in the United States before COVID was really a thing? Why is it so far-fetched to think that we may get back to a point where we can actually walk around without wearing masks and stuff, right? And that's the thing, is I'm not saying that we shouldn't take precautions. I'm not saying that none of this stuff, I'm not saying it's a hoax, I'm not saying it's silly, I'm not saying any of that. I'm just saying that why would we want to continue living in a world that has turned us so just upside down and backwards all at one time? It really does feel sometimes like we almost want the bad thing to happen. And again, I don't know why that is, and this is just me kind of speculating on some level, but it really does seem like a lot of people, and I say COVID because that's the hot topic right now, right? It's about a lot of things. I mean, it was about, like, anytime you talk about the potential for war or terrorism or global warming or climate change or a thunderstorm system rolling in. A lot of times I follow a weather blog for James Spann, right? And I do that because he lays out exactly the building blocks that make said weather system happen. But there are a bunch of sources that you'll find out there who are just like, yep, it's just going to be a wall of naders, a wall of tornadoes just comes straight through, followed by a blizzard. And it's like, that's so unfounded. Why would you say that? Why would you do it? It's for clickbait, okay? It's the same reason that YouTubers will tell you, hey, like and subscribe my stuff, because it helps out algorithm. It helps put them more in the spotlight. And if you're monetized, it helps get you money, get you eyes on your stuff, okay? That's important to understand. It's important when we see things, when we see bits of information, when we see news articles or some talking head on one of these mass media 24-hour networks or whatever, when we see these people start talking and start running at the mouth, or we see something, we always have to question it, right? We always have to look at it and say, is this actually how it is? Because it's real easy to look at something and say, well, there it is. There's your answer. All the confusion, all the mass confusion we have about any given topic right here in this little 3-paragraph, really not very well formatted or really grammatically correct little half-a essay here. That's it. That has solved all the things right there. Or some dude on the internet said that it was a blank and conspiracy and so on. You have to take things with a grain of salt. And it sucks. It really does. Because where do you get your news now? Because just about everybody has some slant or some agenda that they're trying to do with it. Everybody. You know, I really hate to go here, but it's, kind of the worst offender is any time that a Republican or a Democrat says, well, I wish that the Republicans or Democrats would start playing nonpartisan politics. It's like, okay, when you called out the other party and said, quit being partisan, you were being partisan. That's that's like the girl who says, a little high school girl who says, "Oh, I don't like drama," and it's like, literally nobody said anything about drama. You brought it up, you. So, maybe you do a little bit. Maybe you do like drama, just a little bit. If you are, that meme where it's like nobody, absolutely not a freaking soul. Brittany, well, I just don't do drama. Sorry to Brittany's out there. That's just a name, right? So, but anyhow, so that's kind of the idea, right? Is that you always want to be critical about where you're getting your news from, and always second guess what you're reading. And again, it sucks. It really does. It sucks that you have to second guess what somebody tells you. But here's the thing, okay? Because COVID's the big thing right now. But you know what the next big thing is? Death hornets or murder hornets. Murder hornets. That's not the scientific name, by the by. The scientific name is the Asian giant hornet. But so many media outlets have called it, literally in quotes, murder hornet, death hornet. And I'm not trying to call anybody out here, but I mean, one of the first things that I got when I looked it up was the Washington Post, okay? And it said, as if 2020 couldn't get any worse, here comes the murder hornets. And it's like, okay, I'm sorry. That's irresponsible journalism, okay? I'm taking a hard stance right here. That's irresponsible journalism. You're taking the whole, everybody has a negative connotation for 2020. We're not even fully through COVID yet. And now it's like, well, here comes the next plague. Here comes the next thing that we have to worry about. These murder hornets, from what I understand, what little I read into it, because again, you have to take things with a grain of salt, but apparently it's been here for a few months now, but we're just now talking about it because the COVID hype is starting to slow down just a little bit. And so now it's time to bring in the next big, terrible thing. Okay? Here's a hot take. If somebody is allergic to insect stings, guess what? Every hornet is a murder hornet. Every bee is a murder bee. Okay? That's irresponsible. And you can't convince me that it's not irresponsible, okay? Yes, I get it. These murder hornets target honeybees. And obviously the honeybees, that's something that we're trying to protect because there has been population decrease, obviously. They're good for the environment. We don't want honeybees to die. And if these Asian giant hornets are targeting them, then yes, something's got to be done. But let's do something about it. Let's not just say, oh, shoot, dang, here comes the murder hornets. I mean, that sounds so made up. It sounds like something that I shouldn't even have to sit here and talk about because who named them murder hornets? I rest my case. See, here's the thing. You statistically have a 1 in 3,000 chance, I believe, of getting struck by lightning at some point in your life. Are you going to get struck by lightning? Probably not. But you know what? There's a chance. When you leave your house in the morning, a meteorite, and I have no idea what the percentage is on this, but it could happen. A meteorite could fall on your head and end you right there. Okay? The beekeeper goes to work farming the bees, knowing full well that he's working with bees, little flying knives, okay? He knows that. He accepts some degree of risk. When you get on an airplane, you accept some degree of risk. The actual probability of being injured in some sort of plane-related accident, very low, very low. But it's still there, and you assume that risk. Same way, anywhere you go, anything can happen at any point in time, and that's not to scare you, that's to do the opposite, it's to tell you that most of the time things will be okay. But you can't live in fear, and you can't always be looking at the worst possible outcome and saying that that's what's going to happen. If COVID don't get us, it's going to be the murder hornets. And then what's it going to be in June? And then what's it going to be at July? And at some point, the cycle has to stop. I'm looking at you, big media. I'm looking at you. But you know what? The thing is, big media does what they do because they get the clicks. If you, and ironically enough, a YouTuber's telling you don't necessarily click everything that you're told to click. Don't like everything. Don't share everything you're told to share, because not everything is worth the paper it's printed on, or the literal airwaves that the voice is being transmitted across to your ear holes. Okay, you have to take things with a grain of salt. You have to be willing to, maybe don't, I'm not saying be blindly positive, blindly optimistic. Obviously, you have to have caution with everything you do, but at the same time, you still have to be willing to work toward a better goal and not always be hung up on the what ifs and the worst possible case scenario. Yes, it's out there. Yes, we got to do something about it. Yes, it's good to proceed with caution, but still proceed. Still proceed. If not, a lot of people, I think, they get the fatalistic sort of outlook, and it actually starts to do like psychological damage to them. And that's when you start getting people who have bouts of depression and start getting lethargic about life. And I think that's where a lot of people sort of derail their good health, is on that. People have to work towards something. As people, it's ingrained in us to want to be better and to want to have a better spot in life. So that's what we should be doing. It's hard, I know. It's hard sometimes when it seems like everything in the world is terrible, but at the same time, you sometimes just have to turn off the TV or get off the damn internet and just go outside or something. Anything besides just sitting inside a cyclone of all these things telling you that everything's going to be terrible. More than likely, everything's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. Yes, bad things will happen, but generally speaking, things will turn out for the better as long as that's the goal you're working toward. So I hope everybody is still remaining safe, still doing their best. We'll get through it. We just have to work for it. Until next time.